And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
This is the RBL Rays podcast. I'm your host, Zach Dobb, along with my co-host today, Carter Brantley. Carter, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, and happy Thanksgiving to all our listeners. Yeah, hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Hope our listeners had a great Thanksgiving. It's getting a little chilly in Tampa. I mean, not actually cold, but I think I can use the word chilly here for like 50, 60 degree weather. I think that's okay.
It's like 40s, mid 40s here. Not as cold as it was in Columbus yesterday. I don't know if you're a college football fan or if any of our listeners are, but I thoroughly enjoyed every bit of yesterday.
Yeah.
Florida beat Florida State, which was great. And then everything else was just wildly entertaining. This has been by far the most entertaining season of college. Maybe we should have a college football pod later, but wildly entertaining season of college football. Entertaining season. And I've been really enjoying that because it's allowed me to not think about the Rays for a little bit, which has been great because the Rays have not been that fun to think about. But brighter days are coming very, very soon. And we've got something really bright to talk about today. We're going to talk about the letter the Rays sent back. We're going to deal with that. But we've got a really, really awesome interview that I'm really excited to share with you guys today. That's coming up later in the show, so do not go anywhere. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. It's something that I think is going to lift everybody's spirits a little bit. It's a really, really cool project that you're going to want to hear more about, so stay tuned. But before we get to that, I want to say thank you to all of you who are here and watching with us. We really appreciate you. If this is your first time joining the show, thank you. If you like what you see, do me a huge favor and hit the like button. It helps us out a lot. Lets us know you enjoy what we're doing. If you want to know every time we go live, every time we're doing new stuff this offseason, do us a huge favor and subscribe and follow on whatever platform you'd like to enjoy us on. That way you know when we're going live. You know when we're going to be giving this out to you. It's free, helps us. It just lets you know when the show's going to be here. We appreciate all you guys. Let's get right into it with this letter that I think the president of the Rays, whose name is escaping me right now, Matt Silverman sent out to Pinellas County Chairwoman Peters specifically. I'm not going to read the whole letter. You should go read it if you want to. Do you think that this letter, we can get into the broad strokes of it. It's basically just the Rays saying, we're calling you out on your bull crap. We're not, we haven't done anything wrong. Does this change anything about the current situation, having this letter out?
Probably not. It's kind of a weird situation. Both sides have come out looking pretty gnarly. Neither side has looked good for sure, but it's just a bunch of public flexing and kind of, just negotiations and hardball and all those weird like business terms that make me just really grossed out. But it's all at the expense of the general public. It's great. It's fantastic. It's awesome to see. I don't know if you can hear the sarcasm in my voice, but the letter was kind of weird because it was just a different shift in tone from the weird, like aggressive letter before that was like, oh, this deal is dead, like yada, yada, yada. And now they're saying, I don't know, man. I don't even know what to make of all of it. It's all so weird and just it's all like above what I have the capacity to pay attention to. I got bills to pay, I got mouths to feed. I don't have time to be reading into city codes and all this stuff. It's been very frustrating, but that's how it be sometimes. That's life.
Yeah, and I mean, basically what the Rays said in the letter is we didn't do anything wrong with playing at Steinbrenner Field. We didn't break any codes there. One of the things they highlighted was they needed to play in the stadium that met MLB and MLBPA regulations for them to play there, which is something we talked about previously. They can't just go play wherever they want. It's got to be something the PA is going to approve, something the MLB is going to approve. They approve Steinbrenner Field. That's what it was. It doesn't make sense for them to go and play in some of the other parks that were in Pinellas. Too small, don't have the facilities for it. Just wouldn't work to have a major league team there for a full season. Steinbrenner Field made the most sense, and that's kind of what they reiterated here in the letter. They also basically said this deal is not dead. As they said it a couple of times in a couple different ways, basically saying we haven't said it, we haven't killed anything. Everything is still in place if we do not get past certain deadlines, which I think is they want to have this wrapped up before the beginning of the new year so they can still try to keep the 2028 timeline on track. If you go more than a couple of weeks into 2025 and don't have a deal in place 100%, you're going to push it into 2029. So the Rays are basically saying you've got the next like month to figure this out so that we can have, and I believe the next commissioners meeting is week after next, where they're going to relitigate this again. My personal opinion, as much as this is frustrating and annoying to watch, is that it's going to get worked out, because the amount of idiocy involved in shooting yourself in the foot so aggressively that you would take away an MLB team from your market. I can't fathom that, because MLB is looking to expand. They're looking to add 2 teams. The places that have been tagged are Charlotte and Nashville. If the Rays can't play in Tampa and they have to move to Nashville or move to Charlotte early, and instead of having an expansion team there, MLB is going to be really upset because they want to have those cities ready to go. This is all my speculation, by the way. I don't have any inside information, but this is just from what I've seen. They want to have those 2 cities ready to go. So if then you have to take one of those cities away because the Rays have to move out of Tampa, the odds of a team going back to Tampa are completely zero. There's no chance they'll ever send a team back there. So you'd be losing an MLB team and all the revenue that comes along with it, all the jobs that come along with it, all the publicity, all the tourist trade, all of that comes along. You would lose all of that if you go ahead and say we're good. We think you guys have been acting in bad faith. We're done with y'all. You're going to lose that. And it's going to be a terrible look. I would imagine it's political suicide for all of those people that are in office right now, because they'd be the people who lost the Rays. There's just too much at stake for them to really, really say, like, we're going to shut this down. I think it's a lot of posturing to look strong, to look like we have Pinellas's best, we have Pinellas's best interests at heart. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be roughly the same agreement that it was originally. The stadium is going to happen. It's just too much money. It's too much industry to throw away for, saving face. So I think at the end of the day, it'll get worked out. It's annoying and frustrating for us as Rays fans, I think, to have to keep talking about this, because we want to be talking about free agency. We want to be talking about trade targets. We want to be trying to figure out, okay, well, Roki Sasaki's not getting posted until December or January 15th. So what are the agreements the Rays currently have? How could we finagle the money around to have the money to sign him? That's what we want to be talking about right now, not whatever's going on with the Rays Stadium. And so what my message to y'all out there, if you're watching this, it's kind of the message I've been telling myself, honestly, is let's just wait until this is all over. We're going to keep talking about it here on the show because we want to keep you guys informed and make sure you all know what's going on. But at this point, I'm not getting emotionally invested in any developments until we get something really substantial. This is just a lot of political back and forth right now.
Yeah, and it's a lot, like you said, a lot of posturing and all that stuff. It's just really nauseating, and like it's just hard to really believe anything that anyone says out of either camp. Like it's just all such like eyewash. I know that people talk about that with baseball players and stuff like that. So yeah, it's all very silly. And it's all, it's it's all coming because, the Rays want $500 million from St. Pete and Pinellas County. And, that seems to be the common thing. Like you're going to get that much money from a city for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why that's become like the thing. But whatever, it happens. It's hopefully the Rays get to stay, like you said, hopefully they work this out and the Rays are staying around, because it's a lot better to have baseball in Tampa than not. Yeah, just a lot of, you just come away feeling gross about everything. So yeah, I hope I can just kind of stick my head in the sand, watch some college football, watch some NFL games, and not even think about this, because man, it's depressing for sure.
Yeah, it is. And I think as a fan, I'm just looking forward to the days that we don't have to talk about this anymore. Because
I'd rather talk about Taylor Walls and how he, how they might replace him at shortstop or whatever. Like that's such an easier conversation than a lot of this stuff.
Never did I think I'd rather be talking about Taylor Walls than pretty much anything. No offense, Taylor Walls, you are a defensive wizard.
Of course.
If I told you last year that I said, man, I'd rather talk about Taylor Walls than anything else right now, you'd say, what? but it's because we're back here again. And I think that the good that'll come out of this is once this has been resolved, talk about being thankful here on Thanksgiving week. We'll all be very thankful that it's over, and we'll be really excited for the new stadium. I hope it brings a renewed sense of passion to the area as we're looking forward when, that we've kept this team. The team is still here. Hopefully people go out to the games at Steinbrenner Field. If I can make it down there for a couple, I will. Hopefully that will bring some renewed passion to the area because we've kept the team and the stadium is locked in. Hopefully when that gets wrapped up, the stadium's locked in. The Rays will stay in Tampa. And who knows, it'll be interesting to see. I think one of the side stories of this, and we'll talk about this more as it develops and as we finally get it locked in, the stadium is here. I'm very interested to see how the fact of a long-term stadium and a stadium of that caliber being the Rays' permanent home affects their baseball operations. Do they anticipate increased revenue and then decide to make adjustments to the way they bring in players and their payroll? It's something that we're really going to have to wait and see. I'm hopeful that one of the things we'll see with the new stadium is an uptick in the amount of payroll that is allotted to the baseball operations side of things. We'll have to wait and see if that's something that the Rays opt to do. But I'm hopeful that's something good that'll come out of this. As much frustration as it's been, maybe at the end we'll have a team that's spending a little bit more on their players, and who knows.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the hope. That would be the ideal. And if it doesn't happen, my goodness, I don't really know what it would take for them to open up their pocketbooks a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be a bit of a rough stretch until then, I think, especially with them playing in Steinbrenner Field, because the loss of revenue, quote unquote, and all that stuff. Or I don't mean to make it sound trivial. It's real, but I don't know. I'm always just so like, just very, very grossed out by whenever it comes to this kind of stuff. Cause they wouldn't be doing this if they were losing money. Like they're never going to be in the red or whatever, like they always claim. So they're very smart business people. They have huge amounts of knowledge in regards to making deals and all that stuff. So just the idea that they can bellyache and this goes for all small market teams really in baseball. But anyways, that's getting into a whole other subject. I'm really excited for this new stadium if it happens, but, hopefully it'll increase the payroll a little bit, open up the pocketbooks, but we'll see. I'm kind of cautiously optimistic.
And that is going to take us into the part of the show that I'm really excited about. And that is an interview with the founder of a project that we're a part of and we're very excited to be connected with. And that is the project Trop in the Name of Love, a project put together to showcase some of the stories of all of us Rays fans that have been to the Trop, the connective tissue that binds us all together as Rays fans, which is the Trop. And we're going to bring in the founder to discuss that right now. One thing that I think would make anyone who goes into their wardrobe at the beginning of a day to figure out what it is they want to be wearing and how they want to present themselves to the day, one thing that I think would fill them with tremendous optimism is if they opened their wardrobe up and they looked in there and they saw some merch from shop.rblrsports.com. The best place to go if you want to get merch inspired by your favorite Tampa Bay sports teams, the Rowdies, the Bucks, the Lightning, the Rays, all of which have very interesting storylines going on right now. Rowdies have the offseason. The Bucks are fighting for a division, which is a mess of a division, but they're still fighting for the division. The Lightning are rolling into the season, and the Rays are raising, and it's great. If you want to rep out any of those teams, shop.rblrsports.com is the place for you. And you can use promo code FLAPPY, FLAPPY, for 10% off the entire selection there. Use promo code FLAPPY, FLAPPY, shop.rblrsports.com. We are so excited to welcome in Sandy, the founder of Trop in the Name of Love, a really awesome project that has been started to tell some stories of the Trop. Sandy, welcome to the show. Thank you for copping on with us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been a real pleasure to launch the project, and I really appreciate all the love and support, especially from you guys so far.
Well, we're happy to give it. It's a project we're all really excited about, really, really, really happy that that's happening. History is so important, and recording all that is so important. So if you would kind of give us a little bit of backstory on how did this project come to be?
Yeah. So I guess it's common for people to have shower thoughts. It's pretty much how the project came to me. I was the middle of the week for sure, because I remember it was a few days before the weekend came and I was finally like able to actually devote some time to figure out some of the logistics behind like the possibility of putting together a website. But yeah, it was the middle of the week and I was probably just thinking in the shower about the Trop, and it was like maybe mid to late October. So Hurricane Milton was still pretty recent in terms of when it hit Florida, and just thinking about all the devastation down there and the Trop being destroyed. I mean, in the immediate days and weeks afterwards, we saw a lot of Rays fans talking about how devastated they were and reminiscing about the Trop. We see that even now, especially with the uncertainty around the stadium and like us knowing for the most part that the last game has probably been played at the Trop. And my background is in communication, so I have some familiarity with websites and storytelling, and I just thought it made sense in terms of doing something that I was really passionate about that would also have a lot of impact.
And I think that's something that is so cool about the Rays fandom is there's so many different people with so many different talents all throughout the fandom that are all so passionate. And I was when I first heard about the idea of the project, I thought it was really, really cool. And to hear that there's something that was going to be put together and be out there for everyone to see, to me is really, really neat. Do you what does the Trop mean to you? Because obviously to put a project like this together, the Trop has got to obviously have some really strong meaning for you. So what would you say that the Trop and everything that's happened there has meant to you?
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to explain to people, not Rays fans, because I think they would get it, especially local ones. But I'm not a local Rays fan. I call myself the non-local Stingray behind this project. I'm from New York. I've lived here my whole life. I grew up here. And I have been to the Trop twice in my very short-lived Rays fandom so far. That doesn't mean I'm not a passionate Rays fan, but it hasn't been a very long time since I actually got into baseball. Like my first trip down there, it felt like a long time coming in terms of what I was trying to accomplish as a Rays fan. So I became a Rays fan in 2020, just randomly came across Game 4 of the 2020 World Series on TV. A good one to tune into, really actually getting into baseball. Tuned in around the 8th or 9th inning. So it was intense. And then, of course, the big walk-off hit by Brett Phillips, still my favorite player. And then finally got more actively into actually watching and keeping up with baseball and the Rays the following season. I wanted to start a tradition in 2021 of traveling to see the Rays play every year for my birthday. It was tough with COVID and still living at home with my parents at the time, just didn't want to do a ton of high-risk travels. So I had to postpone that a couple of years. And I missed out on seeing, I believe it was along the Northeast in terms of the Rays destinations around my birthday in 2021 and 2. So it was like Boston, Philly, and Baltimore. I ended up hitting those stadiums for different games, but not specifically for birthday trips. And it was finally 2023 when I got to start that tradition, and it kicked off at the Trop, not on my actual birthday because, as it turned out, the Rays had an off day on my birthday that year. But it was the couple of days leading up to it that they had a series, ironically, against the Yankees at the Trop. Yeah, I saw a lot of irony in that. But that was my first time ever at the Trop, and it felt really moving to be what felt like home for me. A weird thing to say, but like I'm always seeing the Rays when they're on the road for the most part, when they come to New York to play the Yankees, and I'm like the outsider, the odd one out at Yankee Stadium, dressed in all my Rays gear. And I've traveled to see them on the road in other cities too. But yeah, some of my favorite baseball memories for sure were from my first trip to the Trop that time. And then my second, and I guess it'll probably be my last time at the Trop now, was a week before Hurricane Helene hit in September of this year. Because, I mean, I thought I'd have a lot more time to spend at the Trop in my lifetime, and I don't get to be seeing the boys play at home a lot for the most part, and even that could have been a tradition to last a while, but natural disasters, what can you do? Mm-hmm. And I don't know, we see a lot with these stories I've gotten so far for the site that everyone talks about the Trop feeling like home in some way to folks, and that's what the Trop means to me. It feels like home to me, although as like a weird non-loco fan.
Yeah, so I got to ask, I mean, as someone who's lived here since 1999, like I grew up here, going to Rays games, I must admit, I love it. Like I love it as a local, but as someone from New York, like you got Yankee Stadium and Fenway Park in your backyard. The idea of coming down here for the Trop is so funny to me. I don't know. It's just what drew you to the Rays other than the Game 4, but what drew you to the Trop specifically? Like when you walked in, was it the air conditioning hitting you, or was it was it walking through? Was it the Ray tank? Like I think their food was featured on Good Morning America one time, which I was kind of surprised by. Like I like their food, but it's ballpark food. I'm not gonna ride home about it. So I guess talk about your experience at the Trop, the first or the second time. Like what'd you have to eat? I'm really curious about how you, as an outsider, like your first time, like what was it like?
Yeah, I will say the food this season seemed like it looks a lot better in pictures. I could see why it got a Good Morning America feature. I'm typically not a fan of ballpark food either. I find it to be very overpriced and pretty mediocre. I live in New York City, though. You can get good food right around the corner on like every block.
For sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think I'm an expert when it comes to rating ballparks. I've been to a fair share. 13 MLB ballparks is my count so far, and each one has its own unique charm and what makes it special. The Trop, I guess like its essence to me is being the home for the Rays and Rays fans. There's definitely nothing else like it. I mean, I loved the lights, and I know people like to hate on it having a roof and all that, but you step into the dome and like what they're able to do with the lights and the roof, it's really, really special. Devil Rays Day was one of my favorites from this year in terms of the colors, like the pretty pastels to align with the Devil Rays colors. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing else like it, even if people might think it's weird or not anything special.
Yeah. I think that's kind of one of the cool things about the Trop is I think, your story about being a Rays fan, not from Tampa. I'm from Daytona Beach. I was actually not a huge Rays fan until my story is there on the website. If you guys want to check it out, I won't give it all away because I want you guys to go check it out and read it. But my story of kind of really coming in my Rays fandom came from, experiencing baseball in Tampa with my grandfather. And having an opportunity to go to the Trop for the first time. And I am a fan who has not ever lived in Tampa for more than a week in my entire life. And Pat, who is the other host on this show, has never even been to the Trop. And he's from England, but he loves the Rays and he wants nothing more than to get to the Trop if it opens back up again someday. I think there's something really cool about the Rays. Something about there's been times when they've been called the island of misfit toys, when bringing people from all over the place in together to create something greater than themselves and something really, really amazing. And I think there's something about that draws fans in from all over the country because there's just something really unique about the team. Would you say that's something that kind of drew you into the team as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, so I condensed my fandom story a little bit. It's just easier to tell people sometimes that it was Game 4 of the 2020 World Series that drew me in. It took a few months longer than that for me to actually commit to a team as far as fandom goes. So, living in New York, I started the 2021 season just with cable, which means I was stuck with the Yankees and the Mets. And, your face is right now. Yeah. Yeah. So I was stuck with my actual local teams on cable. I obviously wasn't paying for MLB TV yet. And, I gathered from all the baseball games I saw that I definitely liked the sport and felt different about it compared to like growing up in my childhood, not really caring for it. But it was every time that the Rays were playing the Yankees, and I got to see them, there were far more matchups before all the intra-league play. I mean, there still are a good amount of games now, but there are far more in 2021. And I mean, I recognized a lot of the guys and the faces from the World Series squad, and it just like hit me that that's the team that I was drawn to, because it was the last few games of the World Series that, you know, really drew me in. And I recognized so many guys, and there were so many good things about them that I found really likable and endearing. Endearing is a word I love using to describe them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I gotta say, being a native, I mean, sorry, I had to make the face with the Yankees because, God, it's the Yankees. But I gotta say, as a New Yorker, do you get like a lot of, you know, side, like the way that I reacted to the Yankees? Did they react that way to you as a Rays fan, or do you kind of walk around? Oh, it's nice. Like what you said, you went to a Yankees game in Rays gear. Like, how was the reception there? Did you get a lot of hate?
Yeah, no matter what happens at Yankee Stadium, it's not going to stop me from being head to toe in Rays gear.
For sure, absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
I will say that much. I've been to like, you know, a good amount of Rays Yankees games at Yankee Stadium. There isn't always something that happens, but Friday nights tend to be rowdier crowds. I hate Friday night Rays Yankees games at the stadium. And have had some of my worst experiences specifically on Friday nights. Yeah, it's the weekend crowd. Probably makes sense. But, you know, some people, like they'll ask me about my story, but they're New Yorkers too. We don't really talk to other people, or like, we're for the most part minding our own business. Like, we don't really care. I do get some looks though, for sure.
Oh man, that's fun. I remember when I was a kid, I'm a weird collection of fandoms. I'm also a Patriots fan. I remember walking through New York in a Patriots hat and got pretty much the same reception that you're probably getting walking around in Rays gear. There's just something about walking around in enemy territory with your gear on that's just like exhilarating. I don't know how else to describe it. It just jazzes me up. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it kind of like I'm like ready to go the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's sometimes at the Trop Yankees games, you're basically in enemy territory anyways. I'm sure the Yankees Rays experience at the Trop isn't super different from at Yankee Stadium, unfortunately, sometimes. Yeah, New Yorkers in Tampa, oh man, it can get a little rowdy.
So to kind of bring us back to the project a little bit, what have you seen from the submissions so far? And what would you like to see kind of going forward for this project?
Yeah. Well, what I found really interesting and special about these submissions so far is how unique everyone's stories are. So, like, well, what was surprising a little bit too was the couple of like non-loco fan submissions, like yours, Zach, and Alex Murphy's from Raise the Roof, and I mean, I kind of hinted at it earlier, but like everyone talks about the Trop feeling like home in some way, but they all have their own unique fandom stories and unique experiences at the Trop. There's some folks like who talk about going to games with family, and then there was like one story about game 162, which I'm incredibly jealous about. But I wasn't a Rays fan then. That sounds like a fun one to be at. And everyone just had their own like unique way of going about their story in terms of what they submitted. So people might not think there's a lot when it comes to Rays fandom as far as quantity of fans go, or experiences, or even just being at the Trop, in terms of that being some sort of meaningful experience. But the stories are there. Like everyone takes away something different from all their time spent at the ballpark, and I think that's really moving. So, I mean, I have a whole bunch of different prompts just if people need ideas for how to approach their stories. If they're on the website, but and like I think like even if people just think about how how like their experiences were at the Trop and what made them special, that there's some really meaningful narrative they could take out of that on their own. Like I don't really need to prompt people. And I mean, the project is still early and growing. It launched at a very difficult time with a lot of news surrounding the Rays for irrelevant and relevant reasons. But I'm hoping that it'll just continue to grow and that there will be a lot more stories to come out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to reading all of them. I mean, there have just been so many great ones already. Are there any, how can fans get a little bit more involved with it? Like, how does the submission process work? Because I know for myself, like I'm horrible with computers and all that stuff. So I could get lost on Google, just trying to look something up. So how can fans get more involved with this project?
Yeah, that's fair. And I know sometimes I feel like I'm asking a lot out of people in terms of, having to take the time to put together a narrative and to actually submit it. It's hard too when the site is up and, I make it clear that submissions are accepted on a rolling basis. So people kind of have to take it upon themselves to set a deadline and to remember to do it. But in terms of folks getting involved, definitely submitting their story when y'all have time would be really great. And that it goes pretty fast. And like, I don't think I asked for a ton of information, just some like basic information about folks, name, whatever they want to provide, however much, location, and photos of the Trop or like of them at the Trop if they would like to include any. And up to 500 words for the actual story narrative, so not too much. And we've gotten stories from like in terms of like between, I guess like 200 and 500. It doesn't really matter, and just however much people are willing to put into it. And other ways to get involved just by spreading the word. Rays fans know Rays fans, so. It'd be great if folks could just continue to let others know about the project.
Yep, and we'll have links to all to the website. We'll have the information linked to how you guys can get involved. I'll tell you, as someone who's written for the project, I literally wrote it on my phone and then edited it real quick on Word on my laptop, and it took me maybe 20 minutes to write it because it for me, as soon as I heard about this project, I knew exactly the story I wanted to tell. And I think there's a lot of fans that even if you think I don't know, maybe my story's not worth telling, it's worth telling. And we all want to know, because I think what's so important about this project to me is history. The Trop we may have played the last game there. I'm hopeful we get the roof repaired, be able to play there in 2026, but we don't know. If that's the last game at the end of 2024 is the last game played in the Trop, there's still so much history there. And we would be doing a disservice to our fandom as Rays fans if we do not get involved in keeping the history of this, because this is how history gets written. It's by people, giving their stories and having a place to collect them and for them to be there. And that's what Trop in the Name of Love is. It's a place for our collective narrative of our histories with the Trop, with our fandom, to be collected, to be in one place. I think this is a really important project. This could be something that we look back on in years and or something that we're really proud of. What would you like to see this project become?
Well, I'd love for it to really become an archive for our fans to tell the stories. So yeah, preserving the history is a big thing for me. And I mean, yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty right now with the Rays Stadium, but we all knew the Trop would have an expiration date come 2028. Maybe we didn't expect it this soon. And I know, like, from what I've seen in terms of what folks are sharing on social media and like other groups, that they do care about the Trop and that there has been a lot of impacts and experiences that the ballpark has had on our fandom. So I would just love to see it grow in terms of, really serving as that space for the community and for stories to be housed there.
Absolutely. I mean, this is such an important project for so many people because, like you said, so many people have been impacted by the Rays and Tropicana Field and stuff like that. So, I mean, I guess a good question to kind of ask you personally, maybe to kind of promote it is what what stood out for you when you went to the Trop? Like, did you have a favorite part? Like, if you had to write your own submission, like I'm sure, like there's, if you had to write your own submission, your own story for the Trop, like what would be like the biggest factor feature that stood out?
The biggest thing I loved about the Trop was definitely all the lights. I don't know if it was like my time spent away from the Trop in terms of going back this year in September that it stood out to me more. Like I was like, I was here like last year, right? But I just didn't remember how special that all looked, or like just I was really mesmerized by all the lights for some reason. And granted, I've only been twice in 2 years, so maybe that makes sense. But what was also really cool about my time down there this year, I got to be in the home plate club for a couple of games, just in terms of Zoe Hubbo and her family down in Tampa, who are very generous and kind people. They invited me to spend some time down there. So I was like really, really close to the field, which is an experience like no other. I mean, the closest I've ever sat in a baseball game. And it was a really cool experience. But yeah, and the other parts about the Trop, just being there for the first time for my birthday trip, that will always stand out to me in memory. And feeling like I'm not in enemy territory for the first time when they're playing the Yankees. It's a ton of irony to that.
It's so funny that you talk about the lights. I'm, my master's degree is in theatrical lighting design. So that's something that I also really appreciate whenever I go to the Trop, because there's so many cool things you can do with light. Light can be such a conveyor of colors, a conveyor of emotions. And I think the Rays do a good job of that to really to psych us up, to get us engaged in the game. And something that I really appreciate, and I hope and pray that will continue with the new stadium, is that they keep that kind of energy with the lighting. Because I think it's something that really can enhance the experience. If there's a fan out there right now that's been listening to this podcast and they're thinking about making a submission, but they're maybe still a little bit nervous, but they kind of want to, but they're kind of doing this thing with themselves, they're not sure, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I get how official sounding the website can look. I mean, I hope I did a good job with that, but like,
it's a good website.
Thank you. It's really not that daunting in terms of what I'm requesting. I know submission guidelines at the submission page with the form looking as long as it does and as official as it looks can seem a little daunting and scary, but I mean, I haven't rejected a submission that I've gotten. And it's just people talking about their experiences at the Trop. It's very free-flowing and loose, I think. I mean, folks take it in all sorts of different directions. There's prompts if you need ideas, but I trust that people, have their own like idea of what they want to talk about when it comes to the Trop too. So, I mean, it's I hope a fairly straightforward and easy process, and it might sound more official and scary than it actually is.
Yeah, I agree. For me, like I'll be honest, like kind of when I first saw all those guidelines, I kind of had the exact same, like, oh, this is a lot. But then I actually read them and I was like, oh, this is like super easy. And like I said, I did it on my phone in 20 minutes and I'm really, really happy that I did. It felt really, really good to be a part of a project like this. You got any other questions, Carter?
No, I mean, I guess we can throw a fun one. Is there any big acquisition or free agent or trade that you want the Rays to make this offseason or anything?
Oh, I was thinking a bit about this yesterday. I mean, I know we have a lot of holes to fill when it comes to the offense. It's hard because I feel like whatever I say, they're going to end up doing something that is a major wild card to pretty much everyone, and it'll seem random and just somehow work out. I also know they need to figure out their catcher situation. Like, that's a pretty major flaw right now with the team. Alex Jackson was an interesting situation for the whole season last year. I I will say, like, as far as catchers go, I think Kyle Higashioka and Danny Jansen are the biggest names being discussed and thrown around. I am oddly enough a big Higgy supporter. Back when I was watching way too many Yankees games to start off my baseball fandom, I did like him a lot. That was when he was like mediocre to maybe less than mediocre before he had his big resurgence here this year on the Padres.
Yeah.
So I know it's probably between him and Jansen, and it seems like most of Rays Reddit is more on board with Jansen, but we'll see.
Interesting. I'm more on board with Higgy, honestly. I like Higashioka a lot.
Yeah, I try to stay as far away from Reddit as I can. No offense to any of y'all who are over there that may be watching. So I would not be mad at Higashioka. So you heard it here first, folks. Higashioka to the Rays coming to your screen very, very soon in late 2024 or early 2025. We really appreciate you coming on and being a part of the show and telling us a little bit about this project. We're really excited to see where it goes. Before we go, I really would love for you to tell us all the places they can find Trop in the Name of Love, all the ways they can submit so that they have all the information out there. If anyone's out there is interested, wants to get involved.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me again. This has been great and really eager to see where this project goes. So you're going to be able to find Trop in the Name of Love on our website, tropinthenameoflove.com. No spaces or special characters or anything. Mm-hmm. And we're also on social media, constantly promoting the stories that we've got so far. There have been really good ones. Yep, Instagram at Trop in the Name of Love. And Twitter, I really wanted to keep the username, but like Twitter has character restrictions, unfortunately. So it's a bit harder with that one, but it's Trop_Name of Love. No other special characters or spaces. And I am personally at Sandy and the Rays on Instagram, constantly talking about the Rays and doing a lot of shenanigans.
Shenanigans are what the Rays do best, I think. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Sandy. We're really, really happy to have you. We're so excited to see where the project goes. If you're out there and you haven't already submit. Get your story in this archive. You're going to be so glad that you did. When you can, who knows, maybe you'll be showing your kids this archive sometime in the future. It's a really, really cool project. So get involved while the getting is good. So that was our interview with Sandy with Trop in the Name of Love. Really, really awesome. Do us all a huge favor. Go share your stories on the website there. We'll have it linked in the description of this. If you're on YouTube, if you're watching us on Twitter or wherever else, it'll be down there in the post. Please, please, please submit. It's going to be a really, really cool project. If you enjoyed this show, if you enjoyed the interview, you want to see more cool stuff like this, we're always doing awesome stuff like this. Drop us a follow. It costs you nothing. It just helps us out so much to let us know that you enjoyed, that you want to see this show. We do it for you guys. We're really excited about the rest of the offseason, even though it looks a little bleak right now. It will look better very soon. We're going to be around all offseason talking Rays. We're going to be talking about Yandy Diaz and Brandon Lowe next week. It's going to be a good offseason as much as it's been a little bleak to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to tune in as always. Definitely always tuning in for these shows because it's a long off season, but this makes it a little bit short.
Yep, absolutely. For now, Rays up.
Rays up.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.